related questions, go ahead and put your questions in the comments now. Today, I'm going to talk about changes. So, of course, it's all over the news about the immigration changes that we should be anticipating in 2025. So, I just want to talk to you about it and talk about options going forward, options that are available now. So now, in the meantime, go ahead and put your questions in the comments so that I can answer those questions. All right, so changes in 2025. Of course, the number one concern is mass deportation. That's what Trump has promised. And he has already assigned, the person who's going to be the border czar, who's also going to be in charge of deportations, and that's Tom Homan. And he was responsible for ICE. So he was the acting director of ICE during the previous administration. And he was also responsible for family separation. So this tells you that there are no limits for him. There are no limits, and he has stated that if there are children involved, if there are families involved that if they're, for example, mixed status families, so that means U.S. citizens along with undocumented immigrant family members, has said that he will send everybody out of the country, including U.S. citizens. I mean, that would be against the Constitution. The U.S. citizens do have constitutional rights. And so, of course, we would see where that would be fervently opposed, but he has said it. So they can try, but this is where we as attorneys have to start planning and being prepared for what's to come. So keep in mind that that's the number one concern. Now, as I said before, mass deportations, are we going to see 13 million undocumented immigrants be sent out within 1 year? It's unlikely. But what we will be seeing is definitely a larger number of immigrants being detained, then also larger number of immigrants being deported. So we will be seeing an increase in those kinds of activities. And so this is where we have to start planning. We also have to make sure that you plan, that you evaluate your options now in order to make sure that you have certain legal protections in place, because there are legal protections available right now. And I would say to make sure you evaluate these options before the law changes, because we can anticipate that eventually, within the first year of Trump's administration, we might be seeing laws go out the door, laws being changed. Right now, for example, the types of laws that where I help my clients to get their papers is under statutory law. So that means that Trump cannot come in on day one and then with an executive order say that these laws no longer exist. It would have to be repealed, and that takes time. And then it also means that while the law is still in place, you can still apply for it. Same with citizenship. If you qualify for citizenship, get it now, because in the future, it might get harder to get it, right? These immigration policies that are going into effect that we can expect, we haven't seen anything officially announced yet. We've gotten hints as to what's coming. But keep in mind that these policies are not just targeting undocumented immigrants, it's targeting legal immigrants as well. It's going to restrict legal immigration. So people who are here saying, "Oh, that doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm here on a work visa, or I did it the right way, or I came legally," guess what's going to happen? It's going to get harder to get visas, harder to get your papers. You're going to get a lot of problems coming your way. And in addition to that, they're going to limit. So where you're applying from outside of the country to come, they're going to limit that as well. If you're coming here, trying to get here on an H-1B, on an H-2B, on an extraordinary ability green card or visa, the O-1 visa, for example, those are going to get a lot harder to get because he has stated that that's what they're going to do. So want you to know that this is not just an attack on undocumented immigrants, but this is going to be an attack on the entire immigration system as well, and legal immigrants. Now, mass deportations, that's the number one concern. So as I said before, this is where we need to start. We're planning here at the law office to make sure that we have the tools, we have the resources to protect the rights of our clients. But you also have to use this time to plan ahead. For example, we have seen states that have stated that they will not comply with Trump's mass deportation orders, because one thing is that the governors of states, so left-leaning states, they are the ones that have to go ahead and authorize the National Guard to go and start doing these kind of operations, because that's what Trump has said. They're going to use the military and the National Guard. So some governors have said that they will not authorize these National Guards. They will not comply with these policies. So what I say is start looking for safe places to be, safe states to be, states where they are not going to implement inhumane policies and separate families. So start planning ahead, start planning safe places to be, so that, when everything starts, the operation start, you can know that at least you have a chance. My whole thing is get yourself in a position where you have a chance, a fighting chance. So make sure you find the laws that can protect you now. The laws that we work with, they are statutory law. So this is where we're able to apply for certain benefits for our clients. For example, I just got this work permit for my client right here that I'm going to meet with my client tomorrow to be able to give it to them. It came just in time, but my client is protected and will have 4 years of status and a path to the green card, because statute authorizes them to be able to apply for this now. So my client who was once without their papers, no more. They have their papers now. So this is what I'm saying. Apply under the laws that are current now. What other types of laws can we expect, or changes can we expect? So other than, yes, the T visa is absolutely confidential. Now, the first things that I anticipate will change immediately is that Trump is going to look at the easiest task for him to do. And this is going to be to terminate programs that are discretionary under the president. For example, TPS and DACA. These are mainly authorized by executive order. Executive orders are different from statute. Statute, for example, the T visa, VAWA, these are authorized by laws that have been out for over 20 years. Executive orders are issued by the president. It's basically discretionary relief that's granted to certain immigrants that is very easy for the president to withdraw. Now, there has been a lot of litigation against Trump in his past administration regarding terminating TPS, terminating DACA. But the problem with that is that the courts did not say that he couldn't terminate them. The court just said he went about it wrong. The process of terminating, he went about it wrong. He didn't give sufficient notice. He didn't go through the proper administrative process. Well, now they have a second go at it, and they understand what the court was saying. Basically, the court gave them a heads up that you can do this, but you're going to have to do it the right way. Right. So it means that the first thing he's going to do is going to terminate these, but he's going to know how to do it the right way now. So DACA and TPS. So TPS is temporary protected status. For example, immigrants such as Haitians and Venezuelans have current TPS status. That is going to probably be the first thing, the first set of forms of relief that he's going to withdraw and then make a move to put these individuals in removal proceedings. And they're going to put them as part of the mass deportation suite. So now with DACA, we're going to have DACA and TPS because there are many individuals who have been here for over a decade, working hard, created families, businesses. They have homes. They are part of the fabric of the United States. They have, this is going to be up to fervent battle. Again, it's going to be subject to litigation, and that may slow the Trump administration down on the termination of DACA and TPS. But I can foresee it already that these are the first two sets of programs that will definitely end. And of course, we have certain parole programs that the Biden administration, implemented for Venezuela and Haiti. Of course, those are going to be terminated as well. Removal of now a part of the mass deportations, the first individuals that we will see targeted are individuals with past deportation orders, as well as those who have criminal records. So those are the first set of individuals that are probably going to be targeted. Or for example, if they have, for example, they are looking at the DMV, looking at different types of databases to be able to target undocumented immigrants here. But I can tell you that probably those immigrants who have past deportation orders and criminal records are going to be easy pickings for them. So they're going to go for them first. And then they're going to implement new policies that's going to allow them to deport other types of immigrants. They're going to then go for individuals who had DACA, those who have TPS, in order to carry out the mass deportations. Right now, across the country, ICE can only hold 41,000 immigrants in detention, but the Trump administration is in talks with private entities, for example, like private prisons, to be able to expand the number of detentions that they can accommodate in order to get this operation going. So this is why it's not going to all be overnight, but over the 4 years, we're going to definitely see more immigrants being deported. And ultimately, the country is going to suffer. There's no doubt about that. The country is going to suffer economically as a result of this. But unfortunately, if Trump does not heed the warnings, we're going to have to suffer those consequences. All right. Now, interviews are coming back. So I can tell you that right now. So during the Trump administration, all the marriage-based, all family-based, all benefits that were granted, except for a VAWA, the T visa, U visa, those did not require interviews. But for family-based, employment-based, you're going to see those. In marriage-based, you're going to see interviews coming back. And with those interviews, you're going to see a heightened suspicion from the officer of fraud. So during the Trump administration, I noticed a lot of that was going on, where there was this hypersensitivity to fraud. even when there was no fraud. And because of that, many married couples went through hell trying to get their green card. We're going to see that coming back. We're going to see more investigations for marriage based green cards. So that's why I'm saying, don't just think this is about undocumented immigrants. It's going to get harder for everybody. Right. So those who are applying for visas, it's going to get harder. It was hard then because, and how do I know? I was practicing during that administration. I saw the obstacles. I saw the unnecessary types of obstructions that were placed in the way of married couples to be able to, married couples and family to be able to get their green cards. Those who were on the outside of the country coming in, there were long wait periods. And of course, it was harder as well. We're going to see that coming back. So keep that in mind, that you need to make sure that you're protected no matter if you know, no matter what type of application you're filing for. Don't take it for granted because it's going to get harder across the board. So interviews, that's going to be coming back. They're going to have more stringent requirements for the applications. We're going to be seeing more denials before we even get a request for evidence. So that means that you have to really be on top of the application, submit everything up front to make sure that those applications meet the standards and that they don't get rejected or denied, because we saw a lot of denials before they even gave the person a chance to correct it. So asylum restrictions are coming back for sure. So during the Trump administration, there was a wait time of 1 year, a mandatory wait time of 1 year before one could get their work permit. It's down to 6 months right now. In addition to that, there were fees. So can you imagine coming to the country with little and nothing for safety, and then having no work, and then having to pay fees to get your work permit or to get your papers, to submit your asylum application. So you're going to be seeing fees coming back as well. Those we're going to see the Muslim ban again, among other things. So there was a Muslim ban, and I don't know if you all remember, but there was also a ban on Nigerian immigrants getting the green card or coming in with certain visas. That was there as well. That during the last tail of the Trump administration, Nigerian citizens could not. There was a complete hold on the process in Nigeria. So we're going to start seeing patterns like that. So restrictions on certain countries coming in. In addition to that, we're going to see what they call ideological screening. And this is where they're not going to just say, do you qualify? Like, based on basic screening. They're going to look at your background to see, or your affiliations, to see if you if you're compatible with the American ideology, right? Whatever that means. We're going to see that coming. So anything that is different from what the US they call the US value system would be, they're going to then use that as a basis to deny visas, to deny entry into the United States. Also, the public charge rule. Public charge rule, which once again is going to make legal immigration very difficult, and it's going to be harder for low income individuals to be able to get their papers. And they're going to, so during the last tail of the Trump administration, and it's really hard to believe that we're going to go through another 4 years of this, but it's going to come. So there were extra forms that had to be completed based on the new public charge rule. And that public charge rule basically said that if you are more likely than not to depend on public assistance, then they would go ahead and deny your application or deny you entry. Now, the way that they evaluated whether that's the current rule now, but the way that they evaluate that is different. So the way they're going to look at this is they're going to look at they're going to look at your background extensively, your job, your health, your age, number of household members you have, your education. um, they're going to look at your credit history. How much debt do you have? How much assets do you have? That's what they were doing before. And then when Biden administration came in, they went ahead and reversed all of that. So that's probably going to come back, and that's really easy for the Trump administration to re-implement when they come back in. So expect these changes, I would say, later on, and depending on Congress, then we might see changes to statutory law. So the statutory laws are, for example, what we work with our clients to get, where we work under those laws to help our clients to get relief. So statutory laws, we may see that repealed or amended, but there is a process that has to take place before that happens. And this is why I'm saying you want to make sure that you're grandfathered in. That means that when you apply for protection under the current laws, that if it's gone, it will not apply to you, because when it's gone, that means that you will not be able to seek protection under those rules anymore. Now, it's going to be a lot more challenging, just because these are long-standing laws that have been in place since more than 2 decades. And in addition to that, these types of laws protect immigrants who maybe were not, who need protection, right? And it also helps the government and helps law enforcement to be able to reduce these kinds of issues like trafficking and crime. So it's going to have, just like everything else, but repealing these laws would have a huge um, backlash on not only the immigrant community, but on law enforcement as well, because it is a great tool for them to be able to be able to fight crime and be able to reduce crime and trafficking. So I suspect that it's not going to be that easy to repeal those laws. And this is why I say definitely make sure you get in on this. If you qualify, we can help you to get it. So this is the purpose of the consultation. Consultations are confidential, and we talk to you about how to be able to get this relief, and then we represent our clients through the relief. What we are doing here at the firm now is we are looking at these potential changes and how we can respond to be able to protect our clients, how we can be able to, bulletproof our firm and our clients against any kind of unjust immigration policies that are going to be coming in. So I suggest you plan as well. You plan on what the best approach will be for you. And the number one thing you can do is seek legal protections now, because those protections are there to be able to protect you from deportation and give you legal status here in the US. All right. So now that we talked about some of the changes that are coming, I want to go through questions because I know we have a lot of questions. So I'm going to go ahead and answer some of these questions here. Are LPRs at risk? Not immediate risk, but as I said previously, we are going to see that the officers are going to become hyper vigilant with everything. For example, one thing I saw a lot of was when legal permanent residents went for citizenship um, interviews, they would walk out not getting their citizenship. Instead, they would be accused of fraud and then put and deportation. They would be threatened with deportation because maybe they saw something that was not that seemed inconsistent on their applications, and they would just jump straight from, oh, this doesn't look right, to you committed fraud, you are not getting citizenship, instead we're going to move to deport you. So I did see things like that happening during the Trump administration. So legal permanent residence, if and in addition to that, if you have criminal records, then that's where I say get citizenship now. Right now, my citizenships take anywhere from 2 years to, I mean, not 2 years, 2 months to 8 months. So get citizenship now while you can, as long as you qualify. And in the consultation, we can talk to you about whether you qualify. Hi there on Instagram. So you caught us a little late in the live. I'm sorry, forgot to hit the go live button. But here I was just talking about some of the changes that are coming. And, of course, we know mass deportation is coming, and so that is definitely a concern. Trump has already said that he's going to designate Tom Homan as the border czar, but also in charge of deportations. So we were talking about that. And then also termination of DACA and TPS, removal of immigrants, immediate removal of immigrants with previous deportation orders or criminal records, interviews in marriage-based and family-based and employment-based green cards. It's coming back. Interviews are coming back. Should we expect I-944 to come back? Yes, that is the public charge rule. So it's coming back. Asylum restrictions are going to be coming back. So where they are going to be placing certain restrictive policies in place to either hinder people from applying for asylum. We're going to see even changes in the standard coming back as well. So these are some of the changes. Public charge rule coming back. So keep in mind that if you're going to have your ducks in a row, or apply now. Apply now while the current public charge rule is in place. The current public charge rule does not look at all of that, like your debt, education, age, health, household number, household size, or education history, current employment status. It doesn't look at that right now. All it does is it looks at your sponsor's income, and then it just determines whether that sponsor meets the income requirement. Now, when we apply for our VAWA clients, T visa, U visa clients, public charge does not apply. And even during the Trump administration, the public charge rule did not apply. So that is one of the rules. It's based on statutory rules, right? That's why the Trump administration could not implement the same changes they applied to other immigrant visas and immigrant processes. They did not do for the T visa, VAWA, the U visa. They would have had to amend the entire law. So this is where I say those kinds of laws that protects immigrants from deportation, in whether you are here with your papers or not, those probably, yes, Trump is probably going to try to change these rules later on, but it's a process, and you will get notification of those processes, and you will be protected under the current law that you're applying under. And you will have the tools to be able to appeal. Even if it's denied, you'll have tools to be able to appeal. So this is where you need to place yourself, because if you find yourself swept up in mass deportation with nothing to show, nothing for protection, nothing to challenge the deportation, then you are in a weaker position. So keep that in mind. So go ahead, put your questions in the comments. I see a lot of great questions coming in, so I want to answer those questions. So here at the firm, we're working double time to take cases in, to be able to qualify our clients so that they are protected under the current laws. So get in touch and let's get started. Now, on day one, when Trump comes in, we are going to see an increase in deportation sweeps, where we are going to see that happening almost immediately. We're going to probably see the announcement of termination of DACA and TPS. So in the meantime, start looking at the rules that are in place that can at least give you some protection right now, that you will be able to have a fighting chance. All right. How about, okay, questions are coming in fast. What is your thought on I-601 waivers waiting in Mexico? So I-601 waivers, those will not, there will not be immediate changes to the I-601 waivers. But what we will be seeing, as with across the board, is we're going to be seeing more stringent evaluations of the applications. So that's where you need to be ready, make sure you have a well-prepared application, and make sure to respond to any kind of request for evidence or notice of intent to deny, because I-601, we won't see any changes. That's still going to be there until Congress changes the actual laws. Those will be there because they're under statutory law. But we're going to see the way they evaluate those is going to be different. My mom is AUC before I was born outside, but she didn't meet the LPR. Am I eligible for derivatives? I'm not sure what AUC is. Now, if you are, if your parent is, if your parent did not get the green card, and you would not get the green card either as a derivative. What's the process going to be like in Ghana? So the limitations on visas, we're going to probably see restrictive policies on visas again, especially when it comes to certain countries. We're going to be seeing problems there again. The immigrant visas to get your green card through family members still there, but once again, as I said previously, they're going to approach it with a harder stance. Do you think VAWA will be affected? I only sent I-360. I have prima facie. So not right now, that's still the law, and it's long-standing law. It's a statute. So Trump can't come in on day one and repeal VAWA. That's not, he can't do that. Only Congress can do that. The way that they're going to evaluate VAWA applications may be different, but the regulations do dictate how the officer has to look at it as well. So it means that there are only specific ways that they can look at the evidence, and so their hands are tied until Congress can repeal the law. So for right now, VAWA is in effect, and this is why you need to seek protections under the current law. But we may be seeing something change in the future. Awaiting cancellation of removal, waiting for green card. So if you are granted cancellation of removal, congratulations. What is expected for those here under Biden's parole program? Unfortunately, we're going to see that terminated, and you probably, we're going to see unfavorable policies and moves being made against immigrants on these parole programs, because these are easy pickings for Trump and the Trump administration, because these are discretionary programs that have been implemented under executive actions. So it means that it's easier to terminate that. I have my work permit and also my I-130 through my marriage approved. Can Trump still deport me? It's unlikely. And this is why I say it's important to seek protection under the laws now, because you can show that you are applying as a qualified immigrant through marriage to a U.S. citizen. This is an example of why you're not going to necessarily, unless there's a misunderstanding or something, but they're not going to deport you because you have your work permit, you have a current application pending, you are married to a US citizen, and so they're going to make sure that you go through the process, right? Because you are seen as an immigrant who's going through the legal process currently, and so you're not subject to deportation. When the USCIS has your case, then the court is not going to have the ability to deport you while the USCIS has your case. What about those who entered legally but overstayed, now married to a citizen? If you overstayed, you're undocumented and you are there is no you're subject to that the mass deportation that Trump is promising. You are subject to that as well. Now, if you're married to a citizen, being married to a citizen alone is not going to protect you. You have to make sure that you submit your documents in order to show that you qualify as an immigrant to get your green card. Now, if your US citizen spouse is now using this as a weapon against you, seeing that now they have these threats of mass deportation, it's time to apply for VAWA, because it means that they don't have your best interests at heart and they are instead being extremely cruel towards you by using this mass deportations against you. So don't hold up. If you and your spouse are considering getting married, moving forward with the process, do it now. There's no time for delays. So do it now. If your spouse is mistreating you and they're a US citizen or permanent resident, get on it now, apply now. Do marriage-based visa get their interview here in the US? Yeah, if you are currently in the US going through adjustment of status, you'd get that interview here. Um, Is VAWA and T visa cases going to be affected? For now, no. For now, it is current law. I do expect that we're going to see changes. As with the previous, with Trump's administration, we saw the changes in the way they evaluated cases, but the law was still there. So it just means that we're going to double down and protect our clients, but the law is still going to be there on day one of Trump's administration. Now, if Congress decides they have to go through a process and they have to repeal those laws. That requires debates and then votes in order for it to be repealed. So it's going to take time. I've been in the USA since 1980 and have a green card. Will I be okay? Green card holders are not subject to this, but what I said, get your citizenship. Don't wait. If you're a green card holder with a criminal record and criminal record deems you deportable, but they haven't made a move, that's where you need to make sure you get legal advice, because it might be a problem. What about those who entered legally but overstayed? So as I said before, they are undocumented. DOI can get deported if offense is undocumented. During the Trump administration, we did see if you had a DUI, they would use it against you. So and of course, this is dictated, whether it's deportable is dictated by statute again, and it would have to fall within one of the inadmissibilities. So it's, getting convicted for one DUI is definitely something that can be challenged, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to get problems for it. How is take for approved I-130 for green card? How long does it take? About 9 to 12 months. Um, Now, another change that we'll be seeing is we're going to see processing times get longer, even longer than what it is. Right now, it's inhumanely long. It's going to get longer because that's a whole other strategy to be able to reduce immigration, to be able to frustrate immigrants and their families in the process. We're going to see that happening again. What about military PIP? So that is still in place. We did see during the Trump administration where relatives of military members were still deported, but military parole in place has been, and once again, it's discretionary. So it means that during the Trump administration, they may be a little more stingy on granting these military parole in place benefits, but it's still there, and we haven't heard anything about it changing so far. Now I'm on TikTok, but I'm going to make my way over to Instagram and YouTube, so please bear with me. What about those who, so I answered that. What about the U visa? So it's still in place right now. Um, What about cancellation of removal in front of judge waiting for green card on wait list? So it means that you do qualify. If you're granted cancellation of removal, then it means that you're supposed to be protected from deportation because the judge cancels your removal. I filed for my husband and waiting on interview since May. Yes, so it is taking about a year. We might see it take even longer. Let's see. What about those who enter that? Will DACA be affected? Most certainly. And then we have to look at the response, congressional response, whether they're willing to pass laws to protect dreamers, because they are definitely at a big risk of being removed. And I don't know, it's unimaginable to think about that, because dreamers, this is their home. They came here as children, many of them without, it was not within their control. They have been here since they were babies. This is the only home they know, and then to remove them is just cruel beyond words. To remove the protections for dreamers, and then to remove them from the country is just cruel beyond anything imaginable. But what I would say is that, the dreamers have gained the sympathies of individuals around the Congress on both sides, left and the right side, Democrats, Republicans. They do have bipartisan support. So I can see that if they are targeted, there is going to be there are going to be protests, huge backlash, and we may see as a result of that Congress pass laws, although they haven't done them any justice so far. So we'll have to see, but uh, it would be a huge injustice. What about green card changes? None so far, but I can expect it might get harder to get the green card, or even harder to renew your green card once it's expired. So that's why I say don't wait for it to expire, apply for citizenship. What if your current status is TPS and your asylum case is under BIA? Please So TPS is on the chopping block. So that means that Trump has targeted this as one of the first programs that he's going to terminate. So we have to see, but it's not looking good for TPS. How long does it take for a parent to file for a minor? It depends. Citizen, it can be less than a year. We just got a green card for our client, and it took less than a year to get that, so about 10 months to get the green card through adjustment of status. If they're outside of the US, you could be looking at a year and a half to 2 years. What about those who entered legally but overstayed? Oh, I answered that. Apply through your citizen. Should we expect the I-944 to be back? Yes. I-944 is the public charge. It's a form that goes with the public charge screening. So that is probably going to come back, and it was a pain. So where you had to fill out additional forms, but it also provide information that would allow them access to look at your background, your assets, your education, your financial history, your credit, your past employment history. So your household size, your age, your health is going to allow the officers to look at that all over again. And then based on the totality of everything that they look at, they're going to decide whether you are worthy of getting the green card, or whether you're more likely to be dependent on the public assistance. So it's very tedious. Right now, that's not the case. But what I can say is just in the past administration, and this is why I say apply now. If you qualify for something, apply now. Treat it with the utmost priority. Because what happened in the past administration is we didn't have to complete this. There was an effective date. So it went through a change in regulatory change, where it had to go through a publication process, and then there was an effective date. And anybody who got their applications in before that date was not subject to the public charge rule. It was only going forward from that date going forward that those individuals who applied after were under that new public charge rule. So this is why I'm using that as an example to show apply early, apply under the laws now, because it could mean that you're protected. You don't have to, they're not going to evaluate you under the more stringent laws, or they're not going to, you're not going to, for example, if the laws don't exist at all, when you apply, you're not protected at all, right? But those who applied while the law was effective, they would be protected. What about those who entered legally? So I answered that. Okay, it seems like the same questions over. Oh, thank you so much. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to answer questions, let you know what's going on. That's very important. Do marriage-based visa get their interview here in the US? If you're here in the US, yes. How difficult is it to prove the T visa? So what with this, any credible evidence is acceptable. When we talk about any credible evidence, it means as long as the evidence is believable, the officer looks at it, and based on their evaluation, they don't see any inconsistencies, it does look to be true, then they will approve it. And what I say is, this is where you have a conversation with us, because a lot of people let not having any proof, and when we talk about proof, it means anything on paper, any recordings, any pictures. When they don't have those, they don't apply for this. And that's a big mistake, because your biggest evidence is what's in your head. It's your memory. It's the memory of what happened to you. That is that's your strongest piece of evidence. So you can put it in a declaration. So in the declaration, as long as it's credible, it will be accepted as evidence. It's like testimony in court. So that's where you need to get in touch with us, because we can help you to apply for this and get the relief you need. What about those who entered legally but overstayed, now married to a US citizen? Apply now. Or if your US citizen spouse is not helping you, it's time to evaluate whether you qualify for VAWA, because that's a big red flag for me if your spouse is not helping you. If you get TU visas, can you get it for your kids? Absolutely. Your children under 21 and unmarried. My mom, okay. Consultation is $150. You can go to the link in the profile to schedule, or right now we have 3 attorneys that are doing these consultations. Please make sure you get in with one of them, because our schedules are filling up very quickly. My son in the army filed for me last year. Will this affect my filing? No, as long as you qualify, there are no changes to those laws, and it's under statute. So they would have to go through a lot more. We definitely know when the change is going to happen, and it would give you the opportunity to apply before the change occurs. So you shouldn't be affected. But once again, this is where it's so important to make sure you have legal protection and legal representation, because now they're going to be a lot harder on those applications, and the screening is going to be different. So if you don't have it right the first time, you might just get a big fat denial in the mail with no opportunities. And that space of time that you get the denial, you are unprotected, because now you're denied. So you don't want to, once you qualify for something, you want to go ahead and apply, do it right, so you are able to qualify. Is it true that once green card is produced, you can't use the I-551 to travel? What if the card was returned? So it's not necessarily true. If you have not received the green card, then you can still use that I-551 stamp, because that's going to be valid for as long as you don't have it in your hand. But here's what I say: don't risk traveling right now. So before I do apply for travel documents for some of my clients who qualify, I would say do not risk it now. Don't travel. Stay in the country. And I would say, even if you have a green card, don't travel right now, until we can know what the changes are, what's coming. I would say sit tight and do not make traveling your priority unless it's an emergency, because it's going to get very ugly at the airports, at the borders. It's going to get very ugly. So you don't want to take that risk. All right. I am now on YouTube. So put your questions in the comments and I'll answer. And then if I have some time, I'll come back to TikTok, and then Instagram, I'll come back to you. I have started the process. I'm not scared or anything, just want to serve the country and also be a safer side of immigration. Absolutely. You're not alone. And I know a vast majority of immigrants, whether you're undocumented or not, or documented, you're here, you've contributed to the United States, you have paid into the economy. And without immigrants, the United States would not be where it is. So absolutely, I understand, and many immigrants have the same thoughts as you. What are the chance for getting approval rate for VAWA? So it really depends on what your case looks like. We'd have to look at what your case looks like to be able to tell you. Based on my experience, good evening, attorney. You had mentioned DMV. Does ICE have access to their systems? So, not automatically, but I'm pretty sure with cross-agency cooperation, they will probably can gain access to that information. So, we can, we probably are going to see a lot of that coming through. Where they're going to look at other agencies, they're going to cooperate with other agencies to be able to get that information. If I was treated unfairly on the job, i.e., working far past regular time because of claim time constraints with projects, but I do have to remember the company's name because, so we would have to talk more about the facts. Like being treated unfairly does not necessarily qualify you for the T visa. But if you're being treated unfairly, then being underpaid, they didn't, got you, recruited you for the job, promised you a certain amount, and then didn't pay you that, paid you less than minimum wage, those can then qualify you for the T visa under the current policies. Our current pending asylum applications get rejected when Trump resumes office. No, not rejected, but we're going to see changes on them. So we have yet to see the details, but we can expect changes. Muslims, how, right, so Muslims voted for him. How come he will ban Muslims? Well, because he doesn't value Muslims, just like he doesn't value anybody who is not white. So, they made a mistake. That's what happened there. And they're about to find out. So that's what's going to happen there. Hi, my VAWA EAD card renew next year. It's expired September 2025. It's easy to renew or hard and travel parole. I have, is any problem? So renew now. Whatever, if your card is within 6 months of expiration, renew now. I just applied for VAWA, but I need to send my motion to reopen for deportation and absent. Do you think it will be harder? So yeah, now motion to reopen. If ICE agrees to join a motion, then that's great, which that can happen now. But if they don't agree, then you'd have to go directly to the court and file that motion to reopen. So it just means that the judge might have to look at it without a joint motion. Yeah, immigration in America will never be the same again. Yes. And it is not going to fix it, it's going to make it worse. This is going to be a mad 4 years to come. Yeah, it's going to be a crazy 4 years. Most immigrants are coming from lesser developed countries with hardly any credit history. So yes, and that can definitely, affect the public charge rule. But keep in mind that not having credit, it doesn't mean you have to have credit. But if you do have credit, then they're going to look at it. My husband is a derivative on my T visa case. He experienced trafficking as well. Could this trafficking experience be noted? So it's not going to make a difference because it's not his case. So it's not going to make a difference, and it can be distracting to put somebody else's trafficking experience in your declaration. So I would say, if you have an attorney, this is where it's time to have a conversation about a strategy going forward. If now, keep in mind that because it says here, my husband is a derivative on my T visa case. He's experienced trafficking as well. Could this be noted in my application? No. If your spouse should apply for his own, not as a derivative, but his own T visa case as well. So this is where it's important to have a conversation about strategy with the attorney. Do you think law enforcement will start looking up immigration status when you get pulled over? So some states already have laws that require the officers to look at immigration status, like Florida, Georgia, are some of those. So it may not be new. And then what we're gonna have here, so Georgia implemented a law that says that if anybody in any government agency in Georgia that suspects that somebody's without status, should report it, and then they're going to detain, the law enforcement can detain that person and hold them for 2 days while ICE determines whether they want to come pick them up. So these laws were implemented, I believe, late last year or this year. And that means now that it works perfectly with the Trump administration's policies. So it means that people are going to start reporting, and law enforcement can then detain immigrants and then wait for their immigration status to be verified by ICE, and then ICE is going to pick them up. So it's not going to be safe. This is where I say, guys, find a safe state. Um, Find a state where you know that you're going to have a safe haven, because they do have states like Texas, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Iowa that have immigration laws for themselves that allow the state officials, state law enforcement, to work with ICE to be able to detain immigrants. Will citizenship through the military be affected? So far, we haven't heard anything about that. But seeing that they want to take away birthright citizenship, so that's another thing that I talked about. Seeing that they want to take away birthright citizenship, we can expect them to attack possible immigrants who are in the military, permanent residents who then want to get their citizenship within the 1 year or the 6 months. So we can expect an attack on that. Now, birthright citizenship, that has been a major concern for people as well. We heard Trump say he's going to from day one, he's going to draft an executive order, sign an executive order that stops children or people who are born here from getting citizenship, meaning terminating birthright citizenship. It is, now keep in mind, this is definitely going to be challenged. And I would say here that he would be on the losing side of things because birthright citizenship is a constitutional right under the 14th Amendment. And it clearly states there's no ambiguous language, there's no vague, there's not open to interpretation. It clearly states that if you're born in the United States or you're a naturalized citizen, you are a citizen. And this has been upheld by the Supreme Court time and time again, right? Regardless of a left-leaning Supreme Court or a right-leaning Supreme Court, the language is pretty clear. So we won't be seeing, the termination of birthright citizenship. Now, what he's proposing is anybody who is born to undocumented immigrants will not be considered citizens. Only those who are born to at least one parent who is a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen will be considered a U.S. citizen by birth. So that's what he's saying. That would be something that would be challenged. And I would say the challenger to this termination of birthright citizenship would be in the winning position. I got my work permit 2 years ago. I'm waiting for my green card approved from VAWA case. How much time? So if your VAWA was approved, I would say it's taking about 3 years, 2.5 to 3 years for approval. So once you get approved, then they move it to the green card process. Will they honor DACA protection before it expires? So that's questionable based on what Trump has been saying. Nobody is safe, including dreamers under DACA. So, but what I am hoping for is due to the empathy of both sides, Democrats, Republicans, and Americans, that they would be granted a protection and a legal path. Maybe that's something that could come out of this, so that they do have protections. Because if not, if they this is where they know as home. They don't know anywhere else, and to deport them, mind you, by the way, if they're deported, would the country even accept them? That's another challenge of the mass deportations. A lot of countries probably would not even accept them, and that's where they have to end up staying, and they're placed in a type of hold, right? Because the countries won't take them either. What hope is there for nurses on OPT? Any idea whether Schedule A processing will return to normal in 2025? So one thing is OPT. Right now, we haven't heard any changes to OPT, but in regards, they have talked about restricting visas, and that means restricting employment-based visas. And schedule, even though this is for green cards, we can expect them to be a lot more stringent there too. So they haven't said anything about changes, but we can expect changes across the board. So this is not about I'm legal and they're not. It's not about that. It's really everybody is going to face very uncomfortable changes in the new Trump administration. I applied for my T visa last month. Do you believe that since Trump will be the president when my case is going to be reviewed, do you think my chances will be lowered? So this is where we are planning. Right now, there are policies in place that says that the officers must evaluate each case under these current policies. When they're ready to change that, we will get notification. So it means that, for example, when my clients, when I submit these applications for my clients, we've already determined they qualify based on the policy manual. I refer directly to the policy manual, and I'm able to show sometimes verbatim how my clients qualify under the policy manual. Remember, the officers don't make the rules, they have to follow the rules. So that means that when you apply under the current process regulations, you have a higher chance of success still, because the officers, even though there may be pushback, at the end of the day, it just does not change the fact that you qualify. But there may be more pushback than we experience in this administration. That's where, just like the interviews, just like public charge rule, we're going to be seeing changes in the way they evaluate, the way they push back on certain information. And it's going to be up to us as attorneys to be able to provide the support for our clients to succeed. That's our job, right? And that's what we are planning. But to make it easier, you need to apply under the current policies that are in place now. I believe Trump has no issue with legal people. He has issues with those who jumped over the fence recently. Is this the case? No. This is going to be difficult for everybody. It's going to be, trust me, the anxiety and what's on the line for undocumented immigrants is far more terrifying. However, everybody is going to experience the inconveniences of a new immigration process that's geared towards reducing immigration. It's geared towards reducing immigration and prioritizing US workers. The problem is there are not enough US workers for these roles. That's why immigrants here, whether they're documented or undocumented, have contributed significantly to the workforce in the United States. That's the problem, right? Is that we're all going to suffer, whether we're immigrants or not. These policies are just going to make things a lot harder for employers, for business owners, for the agriculture industry, construction. I find it ironic that sometimes I will see, for example, these business owners that own landscaping companies, that own construction companies with the big Trump flags all over their trucks, right? And in the meantime, they have undocumented workers working for them. They are going to have a hard time because when the deportation sweep starts, then what's going to happen is they're going to not see their workers show up. And when their workers don't show up, their work has to stop, right? And then their business slows down. And then US workers lose their jobs and they lose their business. So it's going to have a domino effect. And it's because, on a whole, the entire immigration process is going to come to a very, very slow pace, just like towards the tail end of 2020. I'm in administrative, and then what have we, what did we see then? You know, Even people who are trying to come in legally, families were separated, they were frustrated, well, because of those policies. I'm in administrative closer status. I married an American citizen. I 130 approved. I'm going to file for VAWA. Do you think it's better to terminate my case while waiting for VAWA to be approved? Yes. Yeah. Now, keep in mind, I'm not your attorney and I can't give you legal advice. And that goes for all the questions here. But what I can say is being able, before the administration comes in, being able to get it terminated is going to be the best move here. Okay. So we have a lot of questions and I want to get to everybody. But I don't think I'm going to be able to get to everybody, but I'm going to work really hard to come on tomorrow as well to be able to answer more questions. So please hang on to your questions. I'm just going to go to Instagram and then I am going to head out. What about if you come legal but overstay? You are going to be subject to the same removal policies. What if you already submitted AOS? Great. It means that you have a better chance at protection from deportation. Does that help with undocumented wives? I'm not sure what you're referring to. What if your husband is a green card holder? So there's a special process. Now, if you're here, if you're already overstayed, your spouse is a green card holder, adjustment of status is not going to be the way. It would have to be the I-601A process, unless your spouse becomes a US citizen. If I have an interview for my green card, is there anything to worry about? I would say usually if they have an interview scheduled, they are not convinced. If you have a marriage base and you have an interview scheduled right now, they're probably not convinced, or they want to look at your documents, or they are not convinced your marriage is bona fide and they want to ask more questions. So I would say definitely be prepared. My paper said I got paroled but didn't get a stamp. Is that possible? So I'm not sure what paper. Now, if you got a document like a I-94 and it says parole, that would also be evidence of your parole. Can I still do a consultation even though I've already started my process? Now, if you're already represented by an attorney under the rules of professional responsibility, we can't solicit you. But keep in mind, it's always your choice to determine whether you need further guidance. That's your choice. But I cannot solicit anybody who's already represented by another attorney. What is someone? What if someone came illegally but got married to a U.S. citizen and have a child? So Tom Homan, who is going to be in charge of deportations, has said that that is not going to prevent deportation. Unfortunately, the Biden's parole in place program to keep families together was struck down by the court. So that means that in this case, that's no longer an option to be able to get permission to be here. So if you entered without permission, um, and you have a U.S. citizen spouse, unfortunately, the staying here and applying right now is not an option. But applying for the I-601A waiver is going to be your best bet here. So you want to get on that ASAP. Would same-sex marriage be an issue? No, right now it's not. But based on Project 2025 changes, we may see changes there. So we'll have to see. If I have an interview for my green card, is there anything to worry about? I answer that. Will the bona fide determination for T visa going in be affected? So I'm glad you asked this. Right now, it is a rule, and they have to once again go through a process, and say on this date, this rule will no longer be in effect. So they have to make a change, but we'll know when that change is coming. In the meantime, it will provide you protections because it is the current rule. Is it safe to travel on AP? I would say no, it's not. Don't travel. Are you familiar with fighting removal proceedings? Absolutely. Get in touch with us. Do you get a receipt number for T visa? What if I'm stopped by ICE? So you get a receipt notice. Now, the receipt notice alone doesn't give you status. But what I would say here is once you have a T visa receipt notice, then it means that you have a good reason to be able, if they detain you, to be able to be bonded out. ICE isn't, once ICE has their sights on you and they're coming for you, whipping out a receipt notice isn't going to stop them from actually taking you, but it means that you have a better chance of being bonded out because you have a current process with the USCIS, which means that until your process is decided, they can't throw you into deportation. They're not supposed to just throw you into deportation because you have a process before the USCIS. So it means that there's a good chance that you'll be released. Can an F1 who fall out of status get a green card if married to a US citizen during the Trump? Yes, marriage base is not going away. We haven't heard anything about it going away, but it means that it's going to get a lot more stringent, right? During the Trump administration, when I practiced during that administration, one thing I did notice was that they were a lot more sensitive to fraud screening, and because of that, unfortunately, even couples that were not fraudulent, that they were completely real, got caught up in accusations of fraud, or they were stonewalled in the process because the officer had an impression that their application was not valid based on a bona fide marriage. This is where I say don't, and where that happened a lot too was where the application was lacking. So a lot of people, they'll be like, let's just fill out this application quickly and send it in, and then we'll worry about the rest later. That is a disaster because then they're going to say that they're going to look at the skeletal, I call it a skeletal application, and they're going to be like, nah, this isn't real. This is just somebody trying to file something very quickly based on a marriage, thinking they can get their green card just based on submitting this, and deny it or call you in for an interview. But by that point, they've already had their opinion. So it's very important to make sure that you apply, don't wait. If you qualify for something now, now is the time. Keep in mind that even immigration attorneys will also need time to file these applications. So you need to get on it, because these are applications, many of them, that can't be filed overnight. You have to be, just like you have to build a case. This isn't just about filling out applications. So get on it now. You qualify for something, figure out if you qualify. The way you're gonna figure out if you qualify is by speaking to an attorney. And then once you qualify, you get started on your process. That is going to be priority. When will the changes be put in place? So when it comes to certain policies, so I was talking about TPS and DACA, those are easy pickings for the Trump administration, because they're based on presidential executive orders, meaning it's discretionary. That means that the president can come in and say, I don't want that anymore, and change the law, change that rule. But then there are other rules that are statutory, like VAWA, T visa, family-based immigration. They're statutory, meaning Trump can't just come in and say, I don't like these laws, let's throw it out. On day one, he can't do that. It has to go through Congress. Congress has to repeal the law. And then, but even then, yes, if he has he has Senate, he has the House control of those, he has the Supreme Court, but they still have to go through a process to be able to get there. And even then, while the House is still, we're still looking at whether the House, if the Republicans are going to have control of the House, because there's still some counts in the election pending. But keep in mind that they may still require Democratic votes to be able to get these agendas passed. And that means that it might, Democrats might be able to slow down any kind of legislative changes to the law. And the INA, so Immigration and Nationality Act, family immigration, VAWA, family immigration, these are dictated by statutory law, right? So VAWA is the Violence Against Women's Act. The INA dictates family-based immigration. These are all legislative laws that have to be repealed through a process, not through Trump. Can someone that deported from the US for a felony, what the possibility of returning? So it depends on what the crime is, and if there's a waiver available for that. Who falls out of status get a green card? Can an F1 who falls out of status get green card if married to a citizen? Yes. What if you came legally but overstayed? Find out your options. Is it safe to still travel? So no, I answer that. So it looks like I see repeat questions. So no, it is not safe to travel. Don't plan on not traveling. What is the waiting period for work permit after doing biometrics? So work permit, it depends on what you're applying for. If your adjustment of status, family-based, marriage, 3 to 6 months. If you are, if it's VAWA, 6 to 12 months. Is it safe to still travel? Okay, I answered that. How long it takes to get an answer on a humanitarian visa. So a humanitarian visa is like the T visa, U visa. So for the U visa, when you're looking at whether you can get protected status, deferred action is a 1.5 to 2 years. For T, right now they have the bona fide determination process in place. We still have yet to get a timeline on that. But based on what I've seen so far, it's taking about 2 months for the 2 months for the bona fide determination, and then to get a final decision, a year to a year and a half. Hello. I'm a US citizen through my dad, but I don't have my papers and he won't comply to give me information needed for my passport. But I do have my SSN. What's the best option? So we'd have to talk, because we have to understand to what extent is your father not cooperating with you, in order to be able to advise you, because sometimes a lot of this has to do with your dad providing evidence, so that you can get your papers. So, for example, to provide the naturalization certificate, to show that he's a citizen and he became a citizen when you were under 18. Um, what are questions asked in an I-360 interview? So usually they don't interview for the I-360. So I would be surprised to see you going to an I-360. It's usually an I-485 interview. And usually there they want to just make sure you qualify for the green card. So, make sure you don't have any past immigration violations, criminal violations, anything that would disqualify you from getting the green card. What about those who came in legally and are still waiting on asylum? So those we anticipate some changes, but for now we haven't heard what's going to happen for those that have pending asylum cases. I have an appointment. Okay, I'll see you then. I would like to apply for work permit and green card after marriage, but the thing is, we stay separate due to different workplaces. So get in touch with us. That doesn't necessarily have to stop you, but I'd have to understand more. Um, and even in the process, you have to really be able to show good evidence, especially when you are working in different locations. Can a non-immigrant still get married to a US citizen and get their green card? Yes, absolutely. I was removed from US in 1998. Was a possibility of returning. It depends on the facts. My paper said I got parole, so I answered that. If someone marries a US citizen, should they go home and wait for their spouse to file for them? If you're here in the US, you qualify for adjustment of status as long as you didn't enter the country without permission. You qualify for adjustment of status. So why not go for it? You're here, so why not go for adjustment of status? It is faster if you're already here. It is faster. Is the international green card gonna work soon? I'm not sure what the international green card is. I guess if you're going to the embassy for your immigrant visa, it's going to be the same, but I don't know what you're referring to. How long does it take to get an answer on a waiver? A year and a half to 2 years. Marriage-based interview going to happen? Yes. Interviews are coming back. I guarantee interviews are going to come back. Is it international student green card gonna happen? No, there's no such thing as international student green card. And if somebody promised you a green card, based on being a student, I would want to understand why they told you that lie. For example, if it's an employer who's promising you the green card to get you to work for them, that could potentially qualify you as a victim of trafficking. So I would want to understand what happened there. So get in touch with us. How long does it take to get an answer on a waiver? So I answered that. All right. So I'm going to just go back and see if I can answer some more questions, and then I'm going to head out. I'm having a late night tonight, but that's okay because I want to get to your questions. If your mother apply for me, I'm not sure what that is. Can you upload evidence to marriage application online without getting an RFE? If you upload it in time, they may get it, and then they wouldn't do an RFE. I'm a student with F1 visa. How can I get the green card? So students can't get the green card automatically. Can you upload evidence? Okay, so I answered that. Mother, can a mother apply for you even if you overstayed? I think that's what the question is asking. Uh, if the mother's a citizen and you're under 21, yes. If you're over 21 or over and you overstayed, no. Can my husband get an adjustment of status if he entered illegally, then got married to me? Unfortunately, not through adjustment of status. So it's going to have to be the I-601A waiver because the parole in place program is dead. Can you upload evidence to marriage application online without getting answered that? I'm a US citizen. My husband overstayed his tourist visa during COVID. How long he can get work permit? 3 to 6 months. My I-130 is still pending for more than 1 year now. Is that okay? Yes, it can happen. What's the difference between AP and TD? I'm not sure what TD is. Um, yeah. Oh, APM travel document. So AP, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Let's see. What does ready mean after immigrant visa appointment? So I don't, ready might mean that you should come pick up your papers. I'm not sure where you are in the process, but that's what comes to mind. Can you upload? So I answered that. That one keeps coming up on. Does anyone college degree allow someone to get a green card? May through the national interest waiver, but you have to meet very specific requirements. You can get in touch with us and we can walk you through it. Any news on DACA? No, but what I have been seeing is just a lot of information about, the potential termination of DACA. All right. Will it be affected by Trump? Not, no. So they're not going to get rid of VAWA. But keep in mind that the way, as with everything, the way they're going to evaluate the cases is going to be different. So what I would say is definitely do not go, and this is what I would say: do not go to any so-called paralegals or any kind of non-lawyers to help you. These are complex cases that you should be working with an attorney. So if you are trying to find a cheap way around this, now is not the time for that. Make sure that you go ahead and you invest in a lawyer, because the lawyer is going to know how to navigate these complexities. One thing that I do see a lot is these paralegals will go ahead and they will submit a really crappy application. And then after they submit that crappy application, and then something happens, like you get a request for evidence, they're nowhere to be found. And that's the time they're saying, well, they're not an attorney, they can't help you with that. The damage is already done. So please, that's another tip I want to give you before, because it's going to get complicated. It's going to get a lot more complicated, and you want to make sure that an attorney has your back to attend to the complexities that will be coming. All right, I have to get to bed. So thanks so much for your time, for all these questions. I am going to work to be on tomorrow as we work to get cases filed. We're going to be very busy. So make sure you schedule your appointment with one of our attorneys so that we can get started on your case. Now is the time. Whatever you qualify for, you qualify for citizenship, get it now. You qualify for VAWA, get it now. You qualify for T, get it now. Qualify for U, get it now. You qualify for family base, get it now. Qualify for employment base, get it now. Whatever you qualify for, now is the time to apply because it means that you have a chance to get it under the current existing laws rather than under any changes that are going to be coming in 2025. All right, have a good night, everybody, and just hang tight. Let's take this step by step. Plan, plan right now. Plan over the next month and a half to the end of the year, 3 weeks into January. Let's do some planning and get ready. All right, bye bye. Have a good night.